following is a paid advertisement program provided by Premier Investments and Wealth Management. An airing of the program is not to be considered an endorsement or recommendation. The opinions expressed are those of the hosts, guests and callers and not necessarily of KFXR or iHeartMedia. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Premier Investments and Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide tax advice. Please consult your tax professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance referenced is historical and is not a guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal.
The views and opinions of this show are those of Premier Investments in Wealth Management, and their guests alone do not reflect any other entities. The information in the following program should not be construed as an offer to sell and is not intended to replace the advice of qualified tax advisor or legal counsel. Statements in this program do not reflect those of Premier Investments in Wealth Management or LPL Financial or its affiliates. Hello and welcome to the Premier Financial Hour here on News Talk 1190 in Dallas. Glad to have you along. Doug Wagner along with Roger Abel from Premier Investments. We'll tell you more about the website and the one-page Premier Vision document in a second, but I need to introduce him. An accredited investment fiduciary with over 20 years of experience in the financial services industry. He's the owner and wealth advisor at Premier Investments of Wealth Management. He is the big kahuna, Roger Abel.
Doug, I'm not gonna lie. It never gets old. And every time I hear it, I just think of the boxing fight where they lower the mic down. What's that guy's name who does the
Michael Buffer?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need a new nickname for you. Speaking of which, I see the Tyson and Jake Paul fight got canceled.
Because Mike Tyson's little medical incident on the airplane. So
what happened? I don't know what happened.
No, he got ill. He was on an airplane flight somewhere, and he got ill during the whole thing. And I think that's the whole thing that put the kibosh on it. So
I think he got ill because he's pretty old to fight. But okay.
Well,
I can't believe he climbed in that ring. It's crazy.
Would you take $1 million? Take one of the kisser from Mike Tyson?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think
so. Tough one.
I don't think there'd be much left of me, Doug. But every time you say that, that's what I feel like. I feel like I'm just a prize fighter entering the ring for some Sunday morning madness.
I see you as a fisherman that's on the outlook for that big kahuna out there. You're just looking for that big daddy fish, that big kahuna. So that's where it is.
You know, for those who aren't familiar with me or don't know me that well, yes, fishing and hunting are two of my, very passionate pastimes, and I can't get enough of that stuff. So
it's funny because you've got pastimes, and then we talked about, would you take $1 million to get a sock and a kisser from Mike Tyson? If you had just happened to have $1 million hanging around, I encourage you to get in touch with my friends at Premier Investments and Wealth Management, premieriwm.com. You know what? Maybe it's your hard work. Maybe you have an advisor now and you're saying, you know what? I need a second opinion. It's not a bad thing to do. Go to premieriwm.com, find out if you're ready for retirement, and you just click on Get Started once you get to the website. Fill out some information. They keep it confidential. They will produce for you. It's called a one-page Premier Vision document. It helps you understand if you're ready for retirement, if you're ready for your kids' college education, or maybe to pay for that lake house sometime in the future, maybe a hunting cabin up in the mountains somewhere or in North Texas country. Doesn't matter what it is. premieriwm.com. Click Get Started. Find out if you're ready for your financial future. Now, you do that. That's fine. You do all these things on the website, but you also want to make sure that you've got your checklist of things to do before you're retiring. And you really don't want to do these things if you're just like, pulling up to the corner. You want to plan plenty ahead. So if you're in your mid-40s, early 50s, mid-50s even, we've got a list of 7 things to do 5 years before retirement, Roger, because you got to start prepping well in advance. This is not something, it's kind of like getting ready for a colonoscopy. You got to get ready A day before, not hours before. Sorry, I didn't mean we're men of a certain age.
Yeah.
You have that thing.
Well, that's true. And, I always think to our friend Jonas that preps for all of his physicals so he can.
Celery juice.
So he drinks celery juice so he can trick the doctor. I'm like, well, I don't know if that's even worth going if you're just trying to trick the guy. But, don't try to trick yourself, but get prepared. And most of the time, if there's a deficiency that somebody has going into retirement, a lot of times it can get fixed. But let's think about what the deficiencies would be.
Okay.
I haven't saved enough. I want to retire too early.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to take that much risk. Well, those are all things that can be overcome with time.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense to know what they are. And I think going into retirement, the first thing everybody should do 5 years out, review your financial situation.
Okay.
Where do we stand today? How much debt do we have on our house? What do we have from monthly outgoing expenses? Mm-hmm. Do we have the kids through college? Are we going to have weddings that we have to deal with? And if so, how do we plan ahead? I have two young girls. Well, they're not so young anymore, 8 and 5.
Yeah.
The day they were born, my wife said, start a wedding account. It wasn't, we did the college fund. That was just assumed we were going to do that. She's like, just start saving money right now for their wedding. Well, man, do you think I wanted to do that? Not really.
No.
But I look at the balance each month and I'm like, all right, the flowers are taken care of.
Yeah.
And those aren't cheap. Yeah. So I'm just checking the boxes. But that'll start with reviewing the financial situation, see where you are today.
How critical is it to have an understanding of your net worth at every different age? Because you started at fairly young, so you were like in your mid-30s when you did that, right? It's roughly in your mid-30s when you started that.
Late 30s.
Late 30s, those wedding accounts. I mean, how you do that, that's fine. But when do you need to start taking a look at like those big picture numbers like my net worth?
I think net worth is relatively important. I'm more interested in investment net worth.
Okay.
And here's just the difference. So let's define what net worth is.
Okay.
Add up all your stuff, subtract what you owe. That's your net worth.
Okay.
Investable net worth would be add up all your stuff,
right,
except for your house,
right,
and your house debt. That's your investable net worth.
Okay.
Okay. That's the money you could invest. And here's why I'm not a huge fan of net worth. You could have somebody that has a $2 million net worth.
Yeah.
And $300,000 is the 401k and 1.7 million is the house.
Right.
Well, that's not going to do anything from them in a retirement standpoint because I understand, well, you could downsize your house. Reality is they might downsize the size. They don't downsize the value. And once you kind of calculate your investment net worth, it's really important to figure out, how much you're going to need to save in the future. And the easiest way to do it, Doug, is by doing a financial plan. And it doesn't matter if you're 30, 40, 50, 55, do a financial plan. It will tell you, hey, you are on track based upon your current savings rate, or no, you're not. We need to up the contribution rate to get on track.
Now, another thing you say to do, 7 things to do in the list of 7 things to do 5 years before you retire, is make sure that you're maximizing your retirement contributions, especially you get a little bit older, you have something called a catch-up provision if you're over 50 years old. Obviously, it's something you want to do if you are past that age, and you can do it. And recently that number increased, didn't it?
So yes, Doug, you're allowed $30,500 as a catch-up contribution. Okay. And you're getting old or older when you start getting excited about being eligible for the 401k contribution catch-up, which I am. I'm not quite to 50, but my wife's closer than I am. And
wow.
Hey,
Outer. Is she watching this one?
I don't think she's watching.
Okay.
Well, maybe. We'll see. Yeah. We're going to test her, but I know she has friends in the Dallas area that are going to be listening to this.
Hey, Molly, put that on the sizzle reel for the preview, okay?
Don't tell her. But here's why it's important to maximize those contributions. You don't get them back.
Yeah.
But the one thing I want people to recognize and be cognizant of is maximizing the contribution. While I've never met anybody that told me they wish they would have saved less, it may not be required.
Right. If
you go to your financial plan and you're contributing, $26,000 and you're $4,500 short, but you're on track, you don't have to maximize it.
Yeah.
Maybe you can go up your lifestyle a little bit, because part of when we put together these financial plans, Doug, it's not all about maximizing savings. It's maximizing pre-retirement and post-retirement enjoyment. If people look back to the very first show we did a couple of weeks ago,
right?
What did we talk about? 4% of the people are living a nightmare.
Yeah.
And 4% are
living the dream.
Living the dream. Mm-hmm. We want everybody to live the dream before retirement and after retirement, and that can only be done by doing a financial plan.
Are you ready to take control of your financial future? The financial professionals at Premier Investments and Wealth Management are the guides you've been looking for. Picture this, a financial plan tailored exclusively to you. Our team of experienced professionals will work closely with you to understand your aspirations and develop a personalized roadmap to get you there. Whether you're dreaming of retirement, buying a new home, or sending your kids to college, we've got the tools to give you confidence in your financial life. We'll help you navigate saving and investing, retirement income, and tax strategies. Our job is not just about making money, it's about helping our clients make smart choices. We'll provide you with the tools and knowledge to confidently steer your financial ship toward a brighter future. Are you ready to embark on your financial journey with confidence? Visit www.premieriwm.com to get started. Your financial future awaits.
Roger Abel from Premier Investments and Wealth Management. We're talking about the 7 things you need to do 5 years before you retire. And the thing for me that's really interesting, you talked about if you've done a really good job, maybe you don't have to max everything out. But here's the deal. The average, according to Fidelity, the average 401k balance for those people who are aged 55 to 64, that's my cohort, is less than $200,000. Now, they say it's a good start, but it's not where you need to be at that point, which brings me to 2 things. Start as early as you can. If you're a parent or a grandparent, talk to your children or grandchildren about the importance of making sure that they're investing up to the maximum in their 401k and their IRAs at any given time.
The old adage, the best time to plant a tree was yesterday. It's the same thing with saving money. And I'll bet if you polled most people that are, let's call it 55 and up, and asked what the number one regret is, one of the top 2 is going to be, I wish I would have started sooner and I wish I would have saved more. And by starting sooner, you let compound interest work in your favor.
Right.
You know, arguably for my girls, as soon as they start working, they're going to max out a custodial Roth IRA. Because if I do that and teach them that at 10, 11, 12 years old, they're literally going to be set up for the foreseeable future, unless they make a bad money decision and pull it out and do something like that. But if we get individuals concentrating on saving at a young age, it'll all work out.
And if you want to know what a custodial Roth IRA is, then you can get in touch with Roger at 800-383
6590.
There you go. Item number 3 on this list of 7 things you need to do 5 years before you retire is reduce debt and make sure that you are going in as stable as possible. And that's one thing that is, we move further into time, it seems like more and more people are going into retirement with more debt. Am I wrong about that?
No, more and more people are going in with debt. 78% of U.S. households are retiring with debt. A large majority of that is housing debt. And, you know, that's kind of debatable whether you should pay that off or not. Here's why you'd want to pay it off. It's risk reduction. You're managing risk. It's nothing to do with making more money. Not everything is about making more money. Some of it is, how do I mitigate risk? I've never seen a paid for house get foreclosed on, ever.
No. You know, it's so funny you mentioned that risk reduction, because we got talking about this on the regular radio show that we do on a regular basis on another station. And this idea that sometimes the investment portion of what you do isn't always about gain. It's about risk reduction as well as you move forward too. You're trying to reduce your exposure with your investments as you move closer to retirement. And you say, hey, you need to reduce your exposure as far as debts when it comes to your retirement as well.
Absolutely. If you go into retirement with debt, you just have more risk. And I've made this comment for a really long time. You can get away with a money mistake while you're working. You're 40 years old. You go buy the car you can't afford, or the house you can't afford, or you take the trip you can't afford. Well, You can work an extra year, all your work. You can work an extra year to pay it off. You can get a part-time job. It's really hard to recover from a money mistake once you're retired.
Yeah.
You're not going to go back in the workforce because you took a trip you couldn't afford. Now you have $30,000 credit card debt. I mean, I guess maybe we could drive Uber, but I don't know how that's going to work out.
Yeah.
So just eliminating debt is the easiest way to reduce your risk, and probably more so than even your investment risk. And just think about this. For those people who are very risk averse, if you have less debt, you might be able to take less risk with your investments when you do the plan, because you don't have to account for this $2,200 house payment. The average house payment in America today is a little over $2,200.
Right.
$2,200.
That's a lot out of the pocket right there. It's really uncomfortable.
If you just took that 4% rule formula, I'll flip it around on people. So you need $500,000 to generate your house payment.
Ooh.
So those people out there that have $80,000 left,
that's just the house payment.
That's just the house payment.
Yeah.
Those people out there who have $80,000 left and don't want to pay it off.
Yeah.
Because it's 2.75%. Forget the interest rate. Forget the tax deduction. Just knock it out.
Do you ever feel like your financial goals are just out of reach? It's time to take control of your future with Premier Investments and Wealth Management, your partner in financial independence. Imagine a financial plan that's as individual as you are. At Premier Investments and Wealth Management, our team of experienced advisors will work closely with you to create a roadmap tailored to your dreams, whether it's buying a home, retiring comfortably, or starting a business. We believe in transparency and education. We'll help simplify complex financial concepts, provide clear guidance, and empower you to make informed decisions. Financial wellness is within your grasp. Visit www.premieriwm.com to schedule a meeting with an experienced advisor today.
It's a Premier Investments and Wealth Management program with Roger Abel on Talk Radio 1190, also on 1190talkradio.com. Talking with about the 7 things you need to do 5 years before we retire, about halfway through the program. And the final thing I'm going to notice about that is that you're a Dave Ramsey SmartVestor Pro. Does it matter whether people tackle this via the avalanche or the snowball, or just get started one way or the other?
Man, that's a good question. So I bet a lot of people don't actually know, Doug, what the avalanche is.
Okay.
And I think most people are familiar with the debt snowball, which is just listing debts, smallest to largest, tacking the smallest first. Avalanche is listing the interest rates from highest to smallest, going after the highest interest rates first. I don't think the avalanche is a very effective way to do this unless you are a highly disciplined, numbers-oriented person, because that'll make sense to you. From a pure behavior standpoint, most people get the feeling of satisfaction by just knocking out the smallest one. Yes. It's kind of like getting started saving. When you started, the first $50 was easy to do.
Yeah.
But if I told you you can't invest until you have $100,000, you'd never get started. Just really easy, goal-oriented tasks to check off the list, get you going to the next one.
Premier Investments and Wealth Management at premieriwm.com. Click Get Started. You can get your one-page financial document that you can use to roadmap your future. It's really easy. And part of what they do for you at Premier Investments and Wealth Management is help you answer questions like the 7 things you need to do 5 years before you retire. We're on number 4 right now. And number 4 is estimating your future healthcare expenses and planning for them. Roger, this is something that the cost of healthcare has just kept on going up, and it's not going to go down anytime in the future, and it's something that it can really creep up on you. You really need to be prepared for this. How do you do this as part of a financial plan when it might be the most amorphous thing out there?
It's a two-headed monster now, too, because it's pre-retirement or pre-65 and post-65. There's 2 sets of rules here. The good news is if you have good financial planning software, it'll actually estimate the healthcare cost pre-retirement or pre-65, post-65 based upon your zip code, where you live, what the ACA costs in your area, and then when you go on Medicare. So I think one of the challenging things if you're going to retire at 60 is how am I going to provide for healthcare? Fidelity has a study out there. It's going to cost $300,000 for a couple 65 years old.
Wow.
For premiums, out-of-pocket expenses, all the stuff that's not covered. And I think people tend to forget that your employer coverage is significantly different than Medicare.
Yeah.
Medicare doesn't do dental. They don't do vision. Well, you start looking at what happens to people as we get older.
Oh.
We don't get healthier. Our teeth don't get better, and neither does our vision.
Yeah.
My wife's uncle has to have some teeth pulled. He has some that are some problems with some of them. And they gave him the option. Dentures, $5,000. Implants, $34,000.
Oh.
And he's a pretty frugal guy.
Yeah.
So guess what he's doing?
Dentures.
Yeah, and he loves to eat. I'm like,
Yeah.
and he's a bachelor. He's got all the money. I'm like, are you sure? Like, I know how much you like to eat.
Right.
He's going dentures. But how many people have factored in what's the cost of my dental care going to be the next 20? They don't. So you have to get an idea of what you're going to do for medical. And one of the really good ways that individuals, that are still working can really look into the future is start to look at doing an HSA account.
Yeah.
It's the only triple tax-free investment we have. And that's what it is. Tax deductible going in, tax deferred growing, tax-free coming out for medical. There's no reason if you're maxing out a 401k and you have the ability to do an HSA that you're not looking to do this too.
And max that out.
Absolutely.
Because that can be used as an investment vehicle as well.
Yeah, you can roll it over after age 65 to an IRA if you wish to do so. So there's still the benefits.
This is really remarkable. We're talking with Roger Abel from Premier Investments and Wealth Management about the 7 things you need to do 5 years before you retire. So if you want to retire at 65, you're 60, you need to get this on your radar right now, including evaluating your housing options. Something that I've heard because I do a lot of research for my morning show, Roger, and one of the things that I've found out is that there are more seniors than ever who are actually backing out of home ownership and going into renting a home because they don't want the nonsense of having a home. They don't want the upkeep of having a home. They want somebody else to do these things. And it was really strange. And it's a post-COVID thing that's happened. What have you heard about that?
I believe that. They don't want the responsibility of upkeeping the yard, fixing the stuff that breaks.
Right.
And let's be honest. I have a friend who their son is looking at buying their first house. And he said, well, this payment's going to be $1,700.
Yeah.
Okay, this house, it's 30 years old.
Yeah.
I said, try $3,400. No, it's only 17. I said, yeah, $1,700 a month in maintenance and repairs. That's what's going to be out there on a 30 or 40-year-old home. So I understand why retirees are looking to get to that environment. I think the thing to ask yourself is, one, if I'm moving to a different area, is the cost of living the same or different? Okay. That's first question.
Right.
2, do I want to own versus rent? And then do I want a house versus condo or apartment?
Yeah.
So I can tell you, my family, the day my girls graduate high school, we will be in a condo.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, we will. I'm sure.
Foot down.
I don't like to do the yard work.
Right.
I don't like to do any of that. So why wouldn't I just go to that environment that someone just takes care of all of it for me? It's not always purely a money decision. And what I mean by that is I had an individual who they were struggling to make their mortgage payment. So they were going to go rent. I'm like, well, you're going to get half the house that you're renting for the same price as you're paying for this mortgage. That doesn't make any sense. So I think there's just some decisions people need to think about. What do you want to do with the house? And like I said, downsizing, people don't downsize in price. They don't. If you have $1 million house, you're not going to sell your $1 million house and go to one for $400,000. That won't happen. Maybe you'll buy one for $500 and a vacation one for $500.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get rid of one.
Exactly. We've got about 5 minutes left. We want to finish this up. One of the things about housing and retirement is deciding are you going to stay in your home? Is this something where you're planning on staying there to the very end? I have a family member that basically retired onto a retirement living platform. I mean, they have everything from house, they can revert to condo, then they can revert back to independent living, then revert back to assisted living, and then to a traditional care center type of thing. That's planning. I mean, that's master planning. This is the kind of thing that's good for people to do. and they'll help you with that over at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. Create a retirement budget is number 6 of the 7 things that you need to do 5 years before you retire.
So this actually should be number 1.
Okay.
Because if you don't have a handle on where your money's going, you run the risk of being one of the 4% that's living a nightmare. I promise you, the 4% of the people that are thriving in retirement, they know where their money's going. They have a well-written budget. Here's how I want everybody to think about this. You've got your basic living. What are my basic living expenses? Just to get by day to day. Food, groceries, just make it. And list them like this. Needs, basic living, wants, what's the ideal living? Hey, how many vacations a year do I want to take? Maybe I want to take the family to Disney and my grandkids. So needs, wants, and then wishes. What are the things I wish I could do? And when you start envisioning these things, that's how you start to put together a financial plan. And you start to make all of this stuff come to life, answer all the questions that you have about what retirement's going to look like.
Yeah.
But this takes a level of envisioning that, Doug, truth be told, has nothing to do with money. It has to do with your personal vision about what retirement really is going to be.
You know, it's interesting. I was watching a 60 Minutes here the other night, and it had a guy on there who basically went to Zimbabwe, and he, out of his personal fortune, he invested $100 million of his money to bring back this natural wildlife preserve into Africa. And this is something that he couldn't have done had he not had a financial plan. You just don't get there and do that. And he still had the money to do it. So if that was his wish, if you have those things, they are attainable. You just have to make sure that you're planning for them. In this case, much farther than just 5 years down the road. Much farther than 5 years down the road, Roger.
I think everybody should be planning 20 years before they retire, 25 years. It's the amount of time that sometimes it takes to get back on track if you're not there. And if you think about it, people really get serious about investing in their 40s. They should be in their 20s, but people have kids and life gets in the way and family gets in the way. And, 40, 50, that's why they have the catch-up provision in a 401k. A lot of times your kids are gone. You can afford to put another $7,500 a year in.
The final of the 7 things that you need to do 5 years before you retire is stay physically and socially active. I'm going to throw in there mentally and spiritually active as well.
If you go into retirement without a vision of what you're going to do, you run the risk of just kind of falling into a negative rut. One of the first things I ask most people, when they're going to retire is, what do you plan on doing? I mean, where are you going to spend your time? Are you going to volunteer? Work part-time? Are you going to exercise? Do you fish? Do you hunt? What do you do? Because if you have no hobbies, we've seen this happen where people fall into a trap and it's not great for their mental acuity. You see it decline really rapidly and they lose a little bit of sense of purpose. A lot of people like to work because of the sense of purpose. So make sure when you retire, you have a retirement sense of purpose to keep you going through retirement.
Something that's incredibly fulfilling for you, and it's important that you do these things. And you know what? You don't have to do it alone. That's what the professionals at Premier Investments and Wealth Management are here to help you with. These 7 things that you need to do 5 years before you retire. Maybe this list is a little bit different. Your financial future and what they do with your study at premieriwm.com, where you click Get Started, you answer some questions, the one-page Premier Vision document. It's your fingerprint. It's your individual plan. It's not cookie cutter. They ask the questions because they want to have an understanding of what's important to you, where you see yourself and your family in the future, so they can help you get from point A to point B and beyond. Get in touch with them today, premieriwm.com. Thanks for listening to this program here on Talk Radio 1190, 1190talkradio.com. You can also pick it up on your YouTube. Just search Roger Abel as well. I'm Doug Wagner for Roger Abel. We'll talk to you next week.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Premier Investments and Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide tax advice. Please consult your tax professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance referenced is historical and is not a guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal,